Hi everyone, today is Wednesday, September 12th, and today's video is actually going to be about a little tribute to Dr. Masazumi Harada. For those of you that actually are involved in, or would like to be involved in environmental justice work around issues related to how low-income poor communities are actually exposed to environmental hazards related to air, land, water, soil, and human health. Take a look at the work of this physician from Japan. His name is Dr. Masazumi Harada, and I was informed actually that he actually transitioned in spring of 2012 this year. So I was really sad about that news, but I understand that that's also part of the human life cycle. And that would have been one person that I certainly would have liked to have, just a couple minutes with, just to speak about his work. And how I actually learned about Dr. Masazumi Harada is through learning about the Grassy Narrows situation in Ontario, Canada. And for those of you that don't know anything about this, just briefly, what had happened was the aboriginal community in Canada was actually exposed to some hazards related to some practices related to industry, a particular kind of industry. And what had happened was the effluent or the pollution or the some extract from the industry operations actually found its way into the food supply of this particular community. Now, streams were contaminated, water streams. The whole environment was just affected by this industry activity. And what had happened was there was actually an epidemic, people getting sick, but people actually had some symptoms where there was nervous system problems. So the Canadian government actually did not want to help the Aboriginal community, and physicians from Japan had to fly in to Canada, in Ontario, to actually help this community. And this is a First Nations community. Like, how could you even treat, the First Peoples that were actually in Canada at the time? And it was really interesting to really come across the situation. There's actually really good footage on something called the Canadian Broadcasting Corporation Digital Archive, CBC Broadcasting Corporation, and CBC Digital Archives, and they have excellent footage of this situation related to Minamata disease. And Dr. Masazumi Harada has been doing work from the mid-60s around nervous system issues and issues related to self-esteem. So what he did was he actually flew into this community, and he helped community with a diagnosis. And that upset the Canadian officials. And what had happened was the government of Canada at the time, his name is Trudeau, leadership at the time, his name is Trudeau, did some pretty problematic things to actually tear down and discredit this physician. And what he even did, which was really pathetic, was he even threatened journalists at the time that if they had written about this stuff, he would actually pull their funding, and people who wanted to study this stuff, he would pull their funding. And I didn't even know this guy was just so cruel. So take a look at this stuff related to Grassy Narrows, Ontario, Canada. It's actually the worst environmental health disaster in Canadian history. And how many of us actually know about that? We didn't certainly learn about this in grade school. Never knew anything about this. And the reason for me making this video is to commemorate the accomplishments of Dr. Masazumi Harada. As a result of his work, he had a fabulous team that was organized, and they did some wonderful work with the Aboriginal community. And I was also looking into sort of impacts to the Aboriginal community from the Canadian perspective of things. And, you know, it's really sad to see how they even had, for example, these physicians that were writing up this information about, you know, discrediting sort of the technical abilities and the technical practices of Dr. Masazumi Harada. And, you know, I came across this study that was actually done by this physician. I'm not even going to share their names because, you know what, that's advertising for them. So he actually wrote up this study, and he got funding for it. And it was a study to say that there's no way to actually detect, for example, mercury contamination in the cellular structure. And, you know, he was also based in a university in Ontario, and he wrote all this stuff, and I'm like, what the fuck is this shit? You know, because when you're actually in stuff related to ethics, you're so supposed to be questioning why you're doing what you're doing. And what Dr. Masazumi Harada did was he said, you know what, no, I'm doing the good work. So he flew in, he helped the community the best to his ability, went back to Japan, and this center at the time became established, and it was called the Minamata Disease Center. And it actually focuses on impacts to health related to environmental conditions. And you know, I was very fascinated by the work of Dr. Masazumi Harada from Japan. I read somewhere that he actually was in the process of publishing some kind of book about his life and his accomplishments, and it was actually going to be translated. So I hope that the translators actually translate what he was conveying, because there could be problems there as well. And you know, for those involved in, or interested I should say, in getting involved in environmental work, get involved. Things related to air, land, water, soil, and human health. For example, one of the things that I question is what's going on with black human health. You know, we hear of like these new cancers, we hear of like all these new ailments, and there's nothing about it. I mean, I'm looking here in the, for example, the Canadian context, looking for this stuff. Where is it? You know, and this stuff should not be privileged information either. So this is a video about the work of Dr. Masazumi Harada. For those of you from the chocolate community that are, you know, seriously thinking about this stuff, get involved. It's something called environmental justice. The conception was actually developed further, I should say, by Dr. Robert Bullard. And what he did was he actually said, you know what, to the environmental movement, he said, you know what, guys, pay attention to what's happening to the black community and also people of color communities that are displaced in something called low-income status. First of all, why do we have something called a low-income status in the global economic north? And should we have that anywhere in the world? The work of Dr. Masazumi Harada, take a look at the stuff. Awesome, awesome, awesome. And actually, the reason why I say his work is good is because he looked beyond himself. And he looked at a situation and said, you know what? We're going to actually empower the community. He didn't look at the community and say, you know what? Oh, those are a bunch of, you know, offense. And you know what? We're going to tear them down. we're actually going to try and get their resources because we know that they're really expensive. Some people actually think like that. We don't think like that and have ethics. Quality comes first before quantity. When you get into any stuff related to medical practices, medical discourses, writing this stuff, you even have this stuff called, so many ways to term it, but we'll just call it research, medical research. You from the chocolate community, get involved in this stuff and be ethical about it, because you know what? Some people just get into this shit because, you know what, they see the dollar signs and they don't see the implications of the outcome of the work they do. If you're even thinking about getting into med school, check out the work of Dr. Masazumi Harada. Check out some texts such as, what's the name of this one? Medical Apartheid, by Harriet something another. Take a look at the text. These types of knowledge is out there. And then say to yourself, why the fuck am I even going to get involved in something like that? Or, how do I actually bypass this shit and rewrite all this shit? It can be done. Everything starts from somewhere. Take a look at the work of Dr. Masazumi Harada. You may find information, if you can go straight to Japan. I had to actually go into, I have to take my notes and look at my notes. And when I get all my notes organized and stuff, I'll certainly come back to this stuff with respect to Dr. Masazumi Harada. But there was also stuff that was actually published in Japanese language, or the Japanese characters. And, I actually wanted to get a translation of all that stuff, but I'm going to work around that and look at some additional sources. And, for those of you out there already involved in the environmental movement, you have to address this problem with this whiteness. The environment is not white. If you actually look at nature, where do you see white in nature? You see white, you see, all different species, you see all different colors, you see all different expressions. Look within like just like a flower garden. You see so many different species around the world. When you're involved in environmental work, you have to integrate the principles of nature. Nature is not white. Nature is not one thing. And certainly nature should not be modified. Take a look at the work of Dr. Masazumi Harada. Thanks for watching.